we are going to paint a candy cane and some peppermint Christmas candy. The first thing we're gonna do is we wanna sketch out our candy cane. So if you guys have one on hand or you can grab a photo, we're just going to make that classic candy cane that's like a hook. And make sure you do the edges rounded because it's a candy cane, so it should be rounded. And feel free to use a ruler if you have a hard time drawing a straight line. I'm actually going to make this little hook come in just a little bit more because it's a little far out. There we go. Okay. And I'm drawing a little bit darker so you guys can see, but feel free to draw as light as you want. The lighter you draw, the better, because you don't want it to show up since there is white on the candy cane. And then something that I like to do, you know how candy canes have that sheen? It kind of looks like shiny. The way I get that is I draw a line down the middle. So one line and then two lines. So it's this really thin area that I'm going to keep completely white. And this is going to give the appearance that there's like a shine to this. And you can also cut it off so it doesn't go all the way down the candy cane. And we're gonna leave that white right here. Another way you can do this, if you have masking fluid, you can paint this with masking fluid, and that way you can just peel off that masking fluid and you have the white paper underneath. But today I'm just gonna paint really delicately and make sure that I don't paint over that. Then we wanna come in and paint our stripes. So just paint those, draw those candy cane stripes. This will just help to be a guideline, and I kind of like to do them at an angle. Okay, so that's our candy cane, and then we're going to do our little mint candies, and we're gonna paint two of them. So draw a circle, and then draw a little dot in the middle, and it's like a pinwheel, and there's 4 sections. So just draw that pinwheel like that. Wait, is it 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Wait, that's not right. So there's, okay, the circle, then a dot in the middle, and it's actually going to be, there should be 4 sections, right? Why am I having such a hard time with this? Sorry, 3 sections. So red, white, red, white, red, white. Draw another circle over here. Feel free to grab something that's circular if you're having a hard time grabbing a circle or drawing a circle. And then this one I want to have 8 sections total, so I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And it's okay if like some of them are skinnier than others. Okay, now that we have our pencil down, what we want to do is, if you drew really dark, just lightly erase it, because there is white on here and we don't want the pencil marks to show through. Now I'm going to grab my size 2 brush, and make sure you have a brush with a pretty good point on it. Mix up some red. I have Scarlet Lake here, but whatever red you have is fine. I actually want to make this red a little deeper, so I will add just a touch of blue. Sometimes if it's too like poppy red, it's not really like a Christmas red. I have a good amount of paint on my brush. It's pretty thick, kind of the texture of butter, I would say. And what I'm going to do is just come over here and I'm going to outline that first stripe, but I'm going to make sure that I do not touch. Remember our white shine line? I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to paint around it. So I'm outlining it. I'm going to rinse off my brush, grab just water, make sure not too much water. And then I'm just going to kind of pull that paint around. I'm gonna do that all the way up this candy cane. Again, making sure to not get that white line in the middle. And don't worry too much about the white stripe in the candy cane right now. You don't have to worry about that. If you feel like you put too much pigment down, just grab a dry brush and lift it up. Just going all the way down, and now we're back to having that white line down the middle that we do not want to touch, because that's our little highlight. It seems like something so simple, but you guys are going to see it come together and you're going to know, oh yeah, that's why you did that. I think that is one of the things about watercolor, is figuring out how to make something look, if you want to paint in that style, more realistic. It's really about the lighting, like how the light is hitting things, because it would look really flat if we didn't just have this highlight down the middle. Okay, one more. And we are going to grab just a little bit darker red. I want to pop in a couple areas. So grabbing that darker red and just lightly touching the underneath. So this is where it's like the underside of the candy cane. And why I'm doing this is I want to make it look like a shadow a little bit. And then I'm going to just lightly dab off my brush, so there's not a ton of water, but I'm just going to make this little teeny line here. And not too much, you don't want to do the whole thing, but just a little bit. It's going to guide our eye along the edge of this. And I'm going to mix this, just add a little more water over here. And we're gonna give this a second and we're gonna come back to it, but for the most part, it should be darker on the inside here, and then on the outside, it can be lighter. Now right here, I'm going to add just a little line. Oops, I had too much water on my paintbrush. Gotta soak that up. I just wanted to add a little shadow over there because that was looking a little too dark. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. Just with the tip of my brush. It's really important you have a brush that has a good tip. This is a Princeton Heritage. The tip on these brushes is amazing. Okay, so as you can see, it's already starting to come together because we played a little bit with those shadows. We're gonna let it dry and we're gonna move on to our little candy cane candies, pinwheel candies. And for these, we're grabbing that same red color and we're doing the same thing. We're just outlining where the red would go, rinsing off our brush, and just moving it around. And I can tell that I have a little too much water on my brush right now. There we go. And if it's looking just kind of blah, like this looks really flat, rinse off your brush, dry it off on the paper towel, and just pick up some of that paint, because you want it to have that watercolor look. I'm just pulling a little highlight there. Same thing over here. Oop. You really gotta watch your brush. Sometimes water builds up around here and then it goes down your brush and onto your artwork, and that's not what you want. I'm going to dab in just a little darker color and let it kind of bleed. We're gonna do the same thing to this guy. This one had kind of uneven pinwheels. That's okay. And these are great, oops. If if you wanted to make little gift tags or a card. Oh, there we go again. Dropping way too much water on here. Another thing you can do to make this look a little more interesting is, okay, I'm going to outline it, then I'm going to make like a little triangle here, and I'm not going to paint inside of that. So it looks like another little highlight in the candy. I actually should have done that for all of them because that actually looks a lot better. Okay, we're coming back to our candy cane and we're going to grab kind of a like frosty grayish blue. We don't want black because that's just too dark. So I want to lighten it up by, this is like a lavender color, and then I have a little bit of like Payne's gray, and I might just do a touch of black. So like a grayish blue. I'm going to make sure that I definitely do not, that this is really watered down, and but I don't have too much water on my brush. And then I'm going to come in and I'm just, with the tip of the brush, outlining where the white part of the candy cane would be. And I'm making sure that I am not painting that center piece, right? Because that's our little highlight. And it's okay if it bleeds a little bit. And I know you might be thinking, oh, that looks really, it looks like the candy cane is dark. It won't look like it because we're gonna come back in and do one darker shade. I know it seems weird, but it'll look okay. Plus, something else that I do, when you digitize your artwork, if you're in Photoshop, you can bring the white out more. So sometimes I'll paint kind of dark, and then when I get in Photoshop, because I'm digitizing it for like art prints or cards or whatever, I am able to basically make it white again, but keep all those shadowing details. And we do have a little bit of bleeding because the red's not totally dry, but I'm okay with that. I actually kind of like that look. Okay, so we are going to let this dry, and then we're gonna come in with a second layer to just get these details a little stronger. But do you guys see it already? It's already creating like this shine. Back to our pinwheels. We're gonna do the same thing with the white sections. I think I'm gonna darken my color just a tad. And I'm going to outline it along the edge and just bring in a little water. That's actually not dark at all, so. Just outlining it, but making sure that I'm leaving white, because if you don't leave white, it's just gonna look like dirty candy. So make sure you're leaving some of that white. Same thing over here. And it is a little wet still, so I'm getting a little bit of the red in it, but it's okay because it's kind of giving it a creamy look, like a cream color, not like a creamy candy. But again, make sure you're leaving that white. And you can see it's kind of looking more 3D now because we're adding in these layers, we're adding in the shadowing. So this looks good. I want to add another layer. If you're happy with it as is, you can totally be done with it, but I want to add just a little more layering, but we need to wait until this completely dries. So I'm gonna let it dry and then we'll come back and add the details. All right, now that we're dry, we're gonna come in here and just add some details. I can see that this one got a little washed out, so I'm gonna definitely add a little more red over there. have a pretty saturated red, and I'm just going to add a little line here and a line here, but make sure they don't touch because we don't want them to bleed into each other again. Then I'm just grabbing water and letting that kind of bleed. Same thing over here. Like I said before, we're just adding depth by adding a shadow, basically. Looks good. And I should have painted this one first because I'm right-handed and now my hand's gonna go in there. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here for the red one, and we're just gonna add a little, line on the left-hand side of that white. And I'm just doing this to add another dimension to it. And you could even do like a slight line on the top if you want. Just real thin, because we don't want to make it look like there's too many shadows. I'm actually going to blend this with some water a little bit. And I'm going to grab that gray color. Let's see where that's at. That lavenderish gray that we had. And just on the tip of my brush, and on the inside, I'm gonna make a really light line here where that white is. I'm gonna rinse off my brush because that actually got too dark. So I'm just gonna blend it in with some water. Do that again over here. I can tell my brush has a ton of water on it, so I just dabbed it off in a paper towel. And then maybe just a little line over here. And I think that about does it for the candy cane. I don't want to get too, there's definitely you can go too far when you're painting with watercolor, so there's a happy balance there. I did want to add a little more red over here. Maybe a touch over here. And maybe just like a little help over here, because okay. All right, I think our candy cane looks good. Now, last but not least, this other little peppermint candy, we're gonna do the same thing. Just kind of outline with the red, blend it in a little bit with just water. Oops. And I am going to grab that gray again, grayish blue, just on the tip of my size 2 brush. I'm gonna make a slight line, just to outline it a little bit. Same thing over here. All right. And if you feel like you wanna make this highlight stick out even more, you can grab an even darker shade. It's kind of an endless process. Like, you could always tinker with it for a really long time. Just adding in like just every few, just really small. This is a darker shade. Can do that, but okay, I'm not gonna touch it anymore. I think they look really good. All right, those are our candy canes and our peppermint candy.